Hey, welcome back to Spellbound. I'm BJ the Book Witch, and this is an episode of Book Both Ways, where we dive a little bit deeper into books and bookish topics. And today's topic is on literary universes. So we all love Marvel, right? I mean, that's pretty universally understood. But even if that's not the case, I love Marvel. And what I love specifically is the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I love that all of their stories can be standalones, they can exist in trilogies, but either way, they all create this interconnected web within the same world or universe. So, a Marvel film, a Marvel trilogy, a TV show, they all interweb and they all tell the same consistent story. And that was pretty groundbreaking for a studio to do, especially over the course of 12 plus years. But authors have been doing this for a while. Cozy mysteries, contemporary romance, contemporary YA, even fantasy. When I first came across this concept, I thought that it was extraordinarily clever, especially when the books themselves are standalones. So I don't know about you, but I'm pretty burnt out on series right now. I have this really bad habit of reading the first two books in a trilogy, and then by the time the third one comes out, I've already forgotten what happened in the first two, and I always plan on going back to rereading it, but then I never actually do, and then I've forgotten what happens, and so then I just kind of never end up finishing it. And based on that pattern, I have been in the middle of 4 different fantasy series for about 3 years now. And series are awesome, but they're kind of a commitment. I mean, you're signing up for X number of books before you've even picked up the first one. And that's a lot to rely just to tell one story. And so an alternative to that is a set of standalones set in the same universe. The benefit here is that if you like the first book, then you can continue in the same world with the same writing style and get a richer picture, but neither one of the books in the universe are dependent on the other to tell a singular story. They all exist on their own. And there are varying degrees to this, so I want to talk about the different types. The first and easiest is the Sarah Dessen type of universe in contemporary YA, specifically contemporary YA romance. I give one of my best friends a lot of grief for liking Sarah Dessen, but really when I do, it just exposes the fact that I, like everyone, went through a pretty angsty Sarah Dessen phase in my teens. And here's the deal with Sarah Dessen. One set of main characters, usually a guy and a girl, may bump into another couple in a group or have a conversation with another couple. And it's likely that that other couple are the main characters of a separate Sarah Dessen book. And this mixing of characters really acts as more of a cameo than a plot device to further the story. So in Sarah Dessen's universe, you don't need to read any other book to understand the story of the book that you're reading. They just act as Easter eggs and may enhance the reading experience. Another author to do this is Holly Black, except she uses a series and a standalone. In her universe, the characters from her standalone The Darkest Part of the Forest play a small yet integral role in the Folk of the Air series, which includes The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. Overall, you don't need to have read The Darkest Part of the Forest to understand the series, but it does provide a nice Easter egg. One step up from this in terms of complexity is the universe created by Jaclyn Moriarty. So Moriarty is one of my favorite authors of all time. Her writing is whimsical, silly, fast-paced, and just so much fun. And she's written across all genres. She's written young adult, new adult, YA series, and the extremely popular Bronte Mettlestone middle grade series. Fun fact, she has sisters and they're also writers, and one of her sisters is Leanne Moriarty, who wrote Big Little Lies. Anyway, 4 of her contemporary YA standalone novels take place in the same universe. Specifically, they all take place at the same high school across 4 consecutive years. The supporting characters of one book become the main characters of the next book, so they take on much more of an active role than the cameos from Sarah Dessen or Holly Black. But the books do not track along the same storyline like they would in a series. They are all still standalones and could all be read out of order without disrupting the reading experience of any single book. So what you end up with is a very rich reading experience with these really deep and complex characters that you get to know in multiple ways throughout different books. The books in this universe are Feeling Sorry for Celia, which is about a girl who is dealing with her best friend running away. The Year's Secret Assignments, about a pen pal program between two rival schools. The Murder of Bindy Mackenzie, which is about a narcissistic overachiever, read gifted kid, who believes that she is being poisoned. And The Ghosts of Ashbury High, about two bad kids sent to the upper crust private school across town. Now, I'm a huge fan of these books in particular, not just because of the very fun and rich universe that Moriarty has built, but because these stories are told through mixed media. I think that's what it's called. I'm not entirely sure, but these stories aren't written entirely in prose. They're mostly told through emails, handwritten letters, post-it notes, bulletin boards, announcements, things like that, which makes them extremely clever and extremely fun to read. Another author to use this type of universe strategy is Kristin Cashore. So Graceling, Fire, Bitterblue, Winterkeep, they all take place within the same universe, but they are not all books in a series. They could be considered continuations, I guess, which is technically a sequel, but they're not. Each book is a story that is whole unto itself, and even though they may take place chronologically, one after the other, they are not dependent on each other to tell the same story or continue the same narrative. I personally have a complicated relationship with the Cashore novels, but they are very well written, fantastical reads that have very epic feel. Finally, we couldn't end an episode of Book Both Ways on literary universes without mentioning one of the most famous ones out there, especially recently, so well known in fact that it has its own name, the Grishaverse. The Grishaverse is unique from these others mentioned in this video in that it contains multiple series. So within the Grishaverse, you have the Shadow and Bone trilogy, Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. You have the Six of Crows duology with Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. The King of Scars duology, King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. All of these series are self-contained, but together they do weave an intricate and complex, rich universe. And if you haven't yet, I highly recommend you check out the series Shadow and Bone on Netflix. So what about you? What is your favorite literary universe? Does it contain series, a single series, multiple series, or a selection of standalones? Let me know because I would love to dive into a new one. And then tell me how you feel. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you loved it, hit subscribe. And of course, there's always Instagram. Take care, and as always, happy reading.